Welcome to 56-Bit Cloud Cafe, your go-to destination for all tech topics in the cloud. I'm Athir Zalat.
And I'm Patrick Camilleri. And together we'll be addressing various cloud topics.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of our ECS podcast series. Today, we will dive into the world of container orchestration, scaling, and monitoring with ECS. So let's start. There is a lot going on in any containerized setup at all times. How does ECS handle container orchestration and scheduling tasks?
So AWS Elastic Container Service, or ECS, it basically, just like every other container orchestration mechanism and software, it employs what is known as a scheduler. It is a sub-service, a part of the software, that makes sure that tasks get orchestrated across different servers in your cluster. So if the orchestrator decides that it needs a new task to be brought up, then, for example, because there is more traffic coming in, you need the auto-scaling and it brings up a new task. That task will be scheduled to run on a specific instance in a specific availability zone, specific location in that region. So when you create a service, you are creating a definition of that service. It's known as a service definition. In there, you will have a task definition, which defines the container blueprint that will come up. You define things like the number of tasks you want always there, the auto-scaling mechanisms, things like this. These are all part of the service definition. And then the scheduler places the tasks on healthy EC2 instances within that cluster, or using Fargate that is taken out of your hands. Basically, it's a serverless method of doing that. And it ensures efficient resource utilization based on rules that you set in the service definition. And by the way, you can also configure the scheduler. This is a bit more of an advanced feature, but you can have a Lambda function which triggers every time there is a need to schedule a new task. And you can have your own custom rules in that Lambda function.
A major part of the hype around ECS is about scalability. What are the different scaling options available in ECS?
ECS, as you can imagine, like most AWS services, it offers very flexible scaling mechanisms. This is done to make sure that different use cases are covered. It adapts to your containerized applications, whatever you need. And you can configure the service definition will have a piece of that definition will have the auto-scaling rules that you want to scale on. So you might want to scale based on CPU, or based on memory utilization, or based on the amount of traffic coming through your load balancer. Whatever metric or metrics you decide to use, that will allow you will be allowed to use that to scale out more, create more tasks, and ultimately scale back in to reduce costs. And this elasticity, scaling in and out, horizontal elasticity, is what gives it the name Elastic Container Service. By the way, you do not even need to have a service to run a task. A task can be run, but then, because there is no service, if the task goes down, it will not be brought up automatically. So it runs and either finishes running or is brought down but not back up. This service allows a base amount of tasks to always run, and then scaling in and out accordingly.
Beyond that, and despite how highly resilient by itself the service is, and I should be kept on it, how do you monitor and troubleshoot ECS clusters and tasks?
As in everything we do in IT and in AWS, monitoring is absolutely crucial for maintaining a healthy application. In this case, we're delivering that application through containers using a container orchestrator, which is in this case ECS. Whatever you're using, monitoring is absolutely essential. As always in AWS, when we have a service, it tends to integrate from a monitoring perspective it tends to integrate with CloudWatch, AWS CloudWatch, which is in itself has a lot of sub-services. You have CloudWatch logs, CloudWatch metrics, CloudWatch container insights. There are many things that you can do in CloudWatch to ensure you have comprehensive monitoring for your ECS components, for the tasks, the services, the clusters. What can you track? You can track metrics like CPU usage, network traffic, container health, whether they are up or down. You can go deeper than that into your containers using container insights. From inside the container, the software, you can ship out those logs, those textual timestamped logs towards CloudWatch logs to make sure you have a centralized repository of those logs. And then you obviously need to have a dashboard and alarms and triggers to make sure that you are aware of what's happening and ultimately make decisions to troubleshoot any issues. It's also worth mentioning other services here like Prometheus, Grafana, the ELK stack. There are managed services in AWS that help you bring these up as well if you do not want to use CloudWatch. There is also OpenTelemetry, which is being pushed a lot by AWS. This is an open source tracing system similar to X-Ray, to the X-Ray service. And there is even a managed service for OpenTelemetry in AWS that you can use for tracing.
After making it work perfectly, there is the billing cycle that usually matter most to the higher ups at any business. Can you discuss best practices for optimizing ECS performance and cost efficiency?
Yes, sure. Every time we discuss performance and cost efficiency, it's always about monitoring. That is the first step. Monitoring, finding the patterns, and then making decisions based on those patterns. So when it comes to cost efficiency, it's all about reducing or increasing, because sometimes when you increase the size of your resources, you actually get more cost efficient. So right sizing, that's what we call it, right? Increasing and decreasing the size of your resources. But again, you need monitoring to know what to do there. There are even some automated systems that can help you right size in an automated manner or give you recommendations at least. You must ensure that you use the right types of instances, that you don't over-provision them. There is also what is known as packing. Packing is basically how the scheduler in ECS puts tasks together, whether it puts them on the same EC2 instance or separate from each other. And packing allows you to make a decision on the balance you want to achieve in terms of cost efficiency versus reliability, right? And you can achieve that balance as your needs, as you require. Things like auto-scaling and cost tagging, again, a lot of this revolves around monitoring to ensure that you are not over-provisioning your resources. That's probably the best advice I can give for cost efficiency and performance optimization.
And by now, we've reached the end of our episode. Join us for our final episode where we will explore advanced ECS features and real-world use cases. Until then, happy cloud computing!
If you have questions, suggestions, or want to share your feedback, connect with us on social media.
Also, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and to leave us a review to help others find their way to the Cloud Cafe.